Tonight, to review government's handling of the Apeatse explosion and the matters arising from that after this break. You're welcome back. My name is Raymond Dakwa. This is Upfront. Now, it was a massive explosion that claimed the lives of some 13 Ghanaians and rendered many homeless. Government promised swift action. We understand a bit of that is already happening, as the producer of the explosive, Mazam Ghana Limited, has been asked to pay some $6 million for regulatory breaches and other things. Now, already, they are fighting back, as the company insists they have not breached any regulations. Well, tonight, our focus is on how government has handled the matter, and to help us do this properly, and to help us understand how we can do mining and protect the environment at the same time, how we can sustainably deal with environmental issues, is the Harvard-trained lawyer and member of parliament who has been minister in various ministries, and sometimes you lose sight of the fact that he's been environment minister, he's been information minister, he's been youth and sports minister along the line too. He's currently a member of parliament, and I'm unsure whether he's still the subsidiary legislation chair or he's no longer chair, but he has been there before. Mahama Yaga is a member of parliament. You're welcome, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
I hope you are doing well today.
I'm okay, Ray. I'm good.
Yes. So what do former ministers who are just MPs do when they are not in parliament? What do you do differently? Do you spend quality time at home? Do you monitor what the other ministries have done? And if you are given ministerial positions in the future, where would you like to go?
Well, being a member of parliament is quite a Herculean task by itself. And also, as a lawyer trying to practice a little, visit the courts, meet clients,
Oh, I see.
Advise, write some opinions here and there for clients. Yeah, I mean, as a member of parliament, it would be good to monitor what everybody is doing, because part of our job is to keep those in government in check as a legislature. So,
do you advise the various ministries you've been minister before?
Oh yeah, when you meet a certain minister who is where you have been, once in a while you have a conversation with him. You tell them, look, I observed this when I was there. Pay attention to that. Things like that. Some will actually invite you for some more detailed discussion of issues there, pick your brain. Others, by their attitude, may feel they know it all, but trust me, you only get to know when you are leaving the place.
that's to say, no matter how long you've
stayed. No matter how long it is. Sometimes you get to know when you are leaving the place. And after you've left, you're wondering, okay, if I had known this, I would have done it. That kind of thing. So sometimes it's good to tap into the experience of those who have been there. They will help you. They will help you. I mean, we are politicians, we may belong to opposing political parties, but also patriotic Ghanaians who want the country to do well.
There's a point, though, and I'm not taking away from the main issues. There's a point, though. There's always some trouble in Bawku. We have, over the years, I mean, this has been for some time, so over the years, we tried fixing the problem. Why do you think it's becoming intransigent?
Well, I didn't foresee that I'll be discussing Bawku.
Yes, because I started from your role in parliament. Yeah, because it's something they have to deal with on a daily basis, right?
Yeah, sometimes talking less deals with it better than discussing it, because sometimes I talk only when I have to about Bawku and the conflict issues. Otherwise, ordinarily, I prefer...
What I really want to know is whether we would have lasting peace anytime soon.
Oh yeah, we will. I am very confident about that. If people stop the misinformation and deceit and lies about what is achievable in Bawku, I'm sure we will have lasting peace. I believe that it is coming. This recent development has been unfortunate, because many of us believed that we had actually put conflict behind us.
It was also the point.
Bawku, and then the constituency was becoming economically vibrant. People were putting up new edifices, starting new businesses, and members of the two major antagonistic ethnic groups were doing business with one another, setting up lorry stations in each other's dominant zones, doing business without any fear, and forging business partnerships, marrying across, ethnic lines. And so we felt that, we believed that things had gotten to a point where we had all realized that there was no need to keep fighting over those issues, because issues are unattainable. But unfortunately, I think that media, social media, and some radio stations.
Really?
Yes, media. Because you see, people really who shouldn't be listening to acquired voice on social media, and even on some of the local FM stations in the constituency, and said things that they shouldn't be saying, and these generated tensions and provoked sentiments, and by the time we realized where we didn't want to be.
Wow.
And so sometimes if you don't regulate and manage the media space well, you could have problems. And things like Rwanda and etc., when people say that the Rwanda genocide was largely promoted by the use of the media, I can assure you that they are not exaggerating.
Oh, I see.
Media, if not properly managed, can be misused in ways that can deceive people, can make people think that the impossible is possible, and agitate them and get them to take action that is futile, but will cause harm to all of us. So I would say that this recent development is largely because of our failure to watch the social media platforms, and even radio stations that were on the ground misinforming people.
You think that those are the last places that would want to force something like that? You think that
indeed,
those
people
are the
use
places
those,
that would
people use
really?
Unfortunately, people use those platforms.
Wow.
And when you have a population that is not highly sophisticated to understand the legal complexities and the constitutional complications and etc., they buy into simplistic narratives, and that can mislead all of us.
Wow.
And make us do things that in the end, when we finish, we realize that we just wasted our time.
Now let me go to this point. Moving away from Bawku, to Apeatse, we had an incident happen. Government promised action. There's a report from government out there already. That's what the ministry is doing. Already they have identified what they consider to be regulatory breaches and have imposed some fines. Almost, the fine is 1 million, and additional payments of some 5 million. From what you said, we will talk about sustainable mining. We also talk about how to protect the environment. But how have we handled this disaster, if you want to call it? Have we done well? Have we done what will make you tick all the boxes if you were reviewing government's work today?
Well, let me join several voices that have already spoken about Apeatse, and then express their condolences to the bereaved families, and also sympathies that people have expressed regarding the damage to property and the destruction of a whole town as a result of the explosion. Have we managed the situation well? I don't know what better way there could have been to manage the situation. Rather, the question is, should we ever have situations like that? I would say no.
Really?
We shouldn't. We shouldn't, because we have regulations governing things like that, how to mine in ways that comply with all the environmental restrictions and conditions for carrying out mining activities. In this case, we are talking about the use of explosives in mining. Mining definitely, in some cases, require the use of explosives, so there's no issue about that. But then we also have very strict regulations governing how to move the explosives, how to deploy the explosives, how to store the explosives, and all that. So what has happened is another indication of the failure of regulation to take effect. Not that there wasn't regulation. There is the regulation, but it is the failure to enforce the regulation or the failure to comply with the regulation that has resulted in the situation that we find ourselves. And as it is now, the minister has set up a committee. The committee has done some swift work of investigating. Yeah. I don't think it's a complicated case.
Really?
No, it's not a complicated case. I mean, it's quite basic. I mean, people were transporting explosive under conditions that did not comply with the regulations. And then there was an incident, and of course, because the explosives were being moved not under the conditions under which it should be moved, the incident resulted into an accident, which is the explosion that occurred, and the whole town has suffered. So it's not a complicated case. You can't deny that you were moving explosives. You can't deny that they were not moved under the conditions that they should be moved. And you can't deny that you are responsible for moving the explosives. So it's a simple matter.
There's a key point, though. The minister did not tell us exactly which breaches have happened. So he just said there have been some regulatory breaches.
Yes, now, I can tell you the breaches. I believe that if you look at the regulations, explosives are supposed to be moved in some special containment, infrastructure. Yeah. I believe they were not in that kind of infrastructure. If they were, I don't believe that they would have detonated, upon impact.
Oh, I see.
And they are to be moved under some conditions where adequate warning is given as they pass through the community.
With sirens
and all that, and an advanced team and all that. I believe that if there was, the oncoming cyclists would not have had direct impact with the vehicle that was carrying the explosives. That's quite straightforward. If the notices that should accompany moving, explosive through a town was given, oncoming people would have been a bit more careful, and so chances are that we would not have had the accident that occurred.
Okay.
So I have no doubt that the people who were conveying the explosives were not doing that according to the regulations and the standards set for moving them. So it's not a difficult thing.
There's a complaint from the people that they have not breached any regulatory what they call provision in the law. They say they have a different appreciation and interpretation of those.
Oh, that is,
in fact, Mazam is insisting that as a company that produced the explosives, they were not the ones who transported it.
Well, I mean, that is a debatable issue.
Oh,
who was supplying it? Who was supplying it? They as Mazam were supplying it, yes. So,
but they were not transporting it.
They contracted somebody to transport it.
Yeah.
Did they check the capacity of the person they were contracting?
Should they check that?
Yes, of course.
Is it their responsibility?
It's their responsibility. If you are producing explosive and you are supplying it and it's being moved from one location to the other, you must be responsible for the quality of the contractor that you contract the movement, the logistics of moving it to that location. If it is a different company, if I'm suing both you, the supplier who contracted them, and the company that was contracted. And so you cannot deny liability for what has happened. What the minister has done, I really don't want to comment on that because I tried to look through the law to see whether he could do what he was doing. I believe
there's a question I'm going to ask you anyway.
Yeah, I believe he was motivated by the anger that we all hear around us and see around us because of what has happened. Mm-hmm. But if you ask me on which provisions of the law is he asking them to pay $5 million, I really don't know.
There's also the other point about the fine space is between 600 cedis and $10,000.
Yes.
But he was able to up it up to $1 million.
That again, I'm wondering what is the basis for doing that. It could only be the anger that we all,
But are ministers allowed to use anger to make decisions?
I don't know, because I believe that ministers are governed by the law that regulates the movement of explosives and the penalty for violations. I think that in situations like this, the law is clear. Some of those things actually amount to offenses for which you should be prosecuting the people who are responsible for it. So punishment, prosecution in court. The fines can also be imposed, based on a decision that they are culpable. But most importantly, yesterday I listened as the announcement was made that the minister had fined them $5 million. People were angry and saying that $5 million is not enough for the loss of the lives of the people. But that's just one step. The community can actually sue the company.
Oh, I see.
Yes, indeed, that is the ideal thing. The ideal thing is for the community to sue the company. So the community should get lawyers, and those lawyers will sue the company. See, there's a rule in Ryla and Fletcher where if you carry an object that is not for natural use and it escapes from your control and causes damage to third parties, you are responsible for every damage that is caused as a result of the escape of that.
An accident or not?
Well, you carried explosives into the community. You are responsible for making sure that you manage your explosives in such a way that you exit the community without posing a threat to the people in the community. Because you didn't manage it in such a way that it didn't cause harm, and you mismanaged it, and then it resulted in harm being caused to the community, under the law of tort, you will be held responsible for that. And so the community should be suing, the company, Maxam. They should be running to court by now. I mean, if they recover, I know they are traumatized and etc. But lawyers should be approaching the community to take on the case against the mining company. And, who knows, they could get hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean, the $6 million is pittance. The $6 million is what? I mean, how many people were involved? A whole community. Their livelihoods, the lives that were lost, they have to be relocated, the link that they have with their ancestral homes, all that has to be compensated for. And if they go to court, the judge will definitely have to factor all that in determining the appropriate levels of compensation.
Is it too
early? What the minister has fined them and charged them, I don't know who that money will belong to, because, like I said, it
goes to government's coffers.
Well, so government is not the one who has been injured. Of course, the road was damaged. Maybe that can go into fixing the roads. Maybe if there were electricity, poles and etc. that are public infrastructure that government spend money on, those ones government can use the money to do. But the individual members of the community who have suffered have their protection in tort. They can actually sue for damages. And I believe that the judges will make an example of that mining company to signal other mining companies that are using explosives that, they have to make sure that they comply with the strict regulatory regime that regulate the movement of explosives.
Not only because you've been a minister, but you're also a lawyer. Now, there's a question. The minister says he was clothed with powers as the regulator of the entire sector to impose these fines. Does he have the mandate to do that?
That's something that I have been searching and trying to find out if he has, but I still haven't come across the specific provisions under which he is acting. And then, like I said, the conduct might be popular simply because people are angry and are looking for some form of punishment. And I believe that the company itself will not challenge it because they know that the minister's conduct is popular, and people are angry. And are
actually asking for more.
Yeah, actually even complaining that what the minister is fining them for is not enough, and etc. And so quickly they've admitted that they will pay, they will not challenge it, and etc. Of course, saying that they are not admitting liability. Why they are not admitting liability is that there is the possibility of the community suing them.
Oh, I see.
And so
that when they make that admission,
if they make that admission, it will be used against them. So for a start, they have to deny that they haven't breached any regulations. But I don't see how they can ever succeed in court if the community decides to sue. And I think the community should sue. They should go to court. They should go to court. They must go to court.
There's a key question about who should be sued, though. The company that made the
all of them,
the one that's transporting it, or the end beneficiary of the explosives?
Well, I think that who was given license to produce the explosives and to supply the explosives?
That's the company, that's Maxam, yeah.
Yes, so is Maxam the company carrying out the mining activity?
No.
So there's a mining company.
Yes, that's also.
That mining company has contracted Maxam to supply them with explosives.
Yeah.
Good. Maxam, I believe, has gone to government for license to produce and supply explosives.
That's true.
And they have a contract. So clearly they have carried out they have caused the damage. And so they are the ones that should be sued. They are the ones that should be sued.
Now, I raised the question about the transporting company.
Yes. Now, I would suggest that when the community is suing, they should add the mining company and allow the mining company to be able to show why they shouldn't be party to the suit. Because they contracted the supplier to supply them. And I believe that in contracting the suppliers, they ought to do due diligence and make sure that the supplier really has that capacity and will deliver in compliance with the regulations.
There's a point, though. I mean, I'm not taking you back. Section 102 of the Minerals and Mining Act actually talks about the minister shall obtain the advice and recommendation of the commission before exercising the power, discretion, or making a determination or agreement pursuant to the act and regulations made under this act. It actually makes it look like the minister has some powers. And even the first part, in fact, the section deals with the power of the Minerals Commission. It says first, the commissions are...
Are you looking at the Minerals Commission or you're talking about the Minerals and Mining Law?
No, yeah, I'm talking about the Minerals and Mining Law.
Okay.
Yeah, so it says here, the commission shall exercise the powers and perform the functions specified under this act in relation to the commission shall, under the direction of the minister, generally supervise the proper and effective implementation of the provisions of this act. I'm making the point that the minister insists he is regulator of the entire sector and that he can impose these fines in the name of being regulator of the entire sector. You agree?
Well, I mean, the minister is minister of the sector.
Yeah.
In the sector, there are regulators.
Yeah.
There's the Minerals Commission.
Yeah.
But within the Mining Act also, you have Director of Mines, Chief Inspector of Mines, and all those. And those are key officers that are responsible for administering key operational activities in mining. Now, when you go to the Act, you find out that the Act makes provision for regulations to be made to deal with the issue of explosives and the movement of explosives.
That's true.
And then that regulation has actually been made. I think LI 1277 has been made. And in the regulation, everything that pertains to the production, the movement, the storage is also provided for.
Even the type of car.
Exactly. And if you breach it, also the penalty has been provided for. My point is that as the regulator, as the minister, administratively, when there's an incident like that, he could, demand an inquiry into it and to find out exactly what has happened, which has been done. And based on the recommendations of, I thought the major recommendations would have been prosecute.
Okay.
Are you getting the point? Because for me, that's the major thing. Prosecute. That should be the major recommendation.
Do? Because Minister says he only has a regulatory role, and that the criminal and other liabilities will come after the police finish their investigation.
Well, I mean, that's the point. The point really is, yes, he's done that. He's decided to impose a fine. And I said that the fine might be popular, but I don't know the basis of it. But interestingly, the company has not contested that. The company says they will pay. And I believe they are saying they will pay because what has happened is painful and they probably don't want to drag the matter, so they will pay. But I don't think that amount that they are paying is adequate because, like we've just discussed, this is not money that is meant for the community. It's the minister's fine. How the minister is going to utilize it, we are yet to know. Maybe he wants to use it to support the community, we don't know. But whatever the case, I think that in law, the community can also sue the company for the damage caused them as a result of the explosion. And I believe that they can get a better deal from the courts than whatever the minister could give them out of this $6 million fine that he has
There's somebody who's supposed to supervise the mining of operations there. Can they be sued too?
Well, the
Minerals Commission.
The regulator, if you show that the regulator has been negligent in licensing the company, then that becomes another matter. Because if the requirements of the regulation is that for somebody to be licensed, he must show that he has trucks that can be used to convey explosives. He has storage facilities, he has this, he has that. And then there's evidence to show that the regulator issued the license to them without really checking to ensure that they have these facilities. And at the time of the explosion, we went to check the records and we found out that the company did not have any of these infrastructure, even though the regulations require that the regulator should only license them if they have that infrastructure. You can tie the regulator in and establish that there's a certain level of negligence or even recklessness in the conduct of the regulator. So you can make the regulator a party. So the community could sue the regulator, which is government, sue the company that was actually carrying the explosives, and also sue the mining company that had ordered the explosive. If they can show some level of recklessness on the part of the mining company in choosing a company to contract to supply explosives to them, and let them be the ones to show that they are not culpable, but that it is only the company that was actually conveying the explosives that is culpable. I believe that if that happens, and if it is established that the regulator has been negligent and they are made to suffer, and then if it is established that the mining company has been negligent or reckless and they are made to suffer, and it is also established that the company conveying the explosives has been reckless and negligent and they are made to suffer, it sends a signal to the industry that if you want to cut corners in order to make more money, if there's an accident like this, you will lose everything in the process. So it is better that you are compliant and spend the necessary money that is needed to get the job done in accordance with the environmental standards that is required in carrying out mining activities. That's how the developed societies have developed their society. People comply sometimes not because they are good people. They comply because it is very costly if you don't comply. It can be very, very costly when you don't comply. The courts can make it very costly for you. Something like this, the courts can make the mine sell everything to pay.
Oh, I see.
And so all the mines around town will now be scrambling to make sure that they will never be in breach of the regulations.
There's, however, a point, though. The bigger question people are asking is, how frequent has this thing been? How have we transported these, explosives over the period? How safe are the societies or communities around some of these mining institutions and the path that they actually use to their concessions and the supply of these things? Are we mining sustainably in this country?
Well, I mean, sustainable mining, when you use the word sustainability, it can denote different things.
Yeah.
Now, when you say sustainable in development balance, it can mean doing it in such a way that you are also leaving some for future generations.
Yes. And
but I think you're looking at whether you are mining complying with environmental standards here. Mm-hmm. I believe there are a lot of companies that are doing it, you know, in a way that complies with environmental standards. But at the same time, you also have a lot of companies that are not paying particular attention to the standards. This is one such incident that, you know, has turned bad. Many do it and get away with it. Maybe there's no accident. They've been conveying the explosives under the same conditions for years, and there's never been an accident. Mm-hmm. And so they don't feel the need to invest money in the rigor that is required in moving explosives, because it's costly. If you're going to comply with all the regulations, it is costly, and your profit margins will reduce. Yeah. So they want to make more money, so they, you know, don't comply with all the requirements so that they can save money. But there are others that I believe are doing so and following the rules. But something like this has happened. We must be very heavy-handed or high-handed in dealing with it, so that it can send a signal to others that you can try cutting corners. But then,
do you get the impression that's what we're doing now?
Well, I don't think that the penalty is harsh enough, in my opinion.
Really?
And I believe that the courts must step in. I believe the community should go to court. Mm-hmm. They should sue all the three. The regulator is playing the politics of extricating themselves, mm-hmm. Okay? By acting the way that they are acting. Mm-hmm. But it is possible that even under very stringent regulatory regime, there could still be an accident.
Yeah.
Okay? But then it can be established that it is an unavoidable accident. But in this instance, I believe it was a very, very avoidable accident. And the regulator has set up a process of finding out. I don't know how that setup sought to investigate the regulator himself. Okay? Because if I set up to investigate an incident, and aspects of the incident relate to my own conduct, mm-hmm. my regulatory behavior, I may not look into that. So in situations like this, in some jurisdictions, you may actually have a parliament move in to say, well, you've done your investigations, but you are the regulator. You can't be a judge in your own court. So we're going to go and check whether there are aspects of regulatory failure coming from your conduct.
Well, I've not heard that from Parliament.
Exactly.
Right?
So in some jurisdictions, Parliament will also want to go in and check whether there's some fault also coming from the regulator. And
why haven't you stepped in?
Well, I mean, there's no indication that Parliament will not step in.
Really?
There's no indication.
It's been some weeks now. If Parliament was truly interested,
I'm not on the mining committee. If I was,
you're still a former Minister of Environment, interested in protecting the people's environment.
Yes, and that's why that's why I'm using this platform to show how the problem can be dealt with.
Point. My only difficulty,
that's my contribution.
You are spearheading the actions and making sure
that's my contribution. My contribution is to, you know, show what I think can be done, and that's what I'm doing. I commend the minister for moving in swiftly, doing all the PR, trying to assist the community, the president mobilizing resources to assist the community, and etc. But I'm saying that there could also be failures in the behavior of the regulator.
Okay.
And that the minister may notice and then deal with internally. He may not disclose it publicly.
All right.
But the Parliament may also be interested and say, well, you should also come and account for your own behavior.
Should the Mines and Energy Committee take it up?
I think so. I think they should be interested in the behavior of the regulatory agencies in this instance.
Okay.
How they have been licensing the importation of explosives, the production of explosives, the movement of explosives, the storage of explosives. They should be interested, and they should look into that.
Do you know
this is a wake-up call.
Part in this one.
Yes.
The ranking member of the Mines and Energy Committee is the brother to the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. It
doesn't mean that he cannot demand a probe. The probe doesn't mean that the minister is culpable.
Yeah.
The minister is sitting up there. There are institutions under him.
I've not heard that happening.
I doubt that. I mean, I doubt that.
Because we saw how Parliament moved swiftly when it came to the airport Magdan incident. We saw how it happened. We saw how Parliament is talking about COVID, expenditure, and is demanding full-term probe and all of that. We saw how Parliament dealt with the Ajimameno incident. It appears that Parliament thinks that this can be resolved without their involvement.
Well, it's possible that people haven't thought about it in terms of the conduct of the regulator.
Okay.
And also, it is possible that people are blinded by the effort of the minister. Mm-hmm. So they haven't felt a need to want Parliament to go into the matter. But I don't want to think that they haven't gone into it because the ranking member or the shadow minister is the brother of the Minister for Mines.
You don't think that is a possibility at all?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think that it might just be a lack of awareness that this is something that he should be interested in. I think so. I think that it could just be a lack of awareness that there could be a need to also, look at the behavior of the regulatory agencies.
I'm happy we are in Parliament. Frankly, I'm happy we are in Parliament because a lot of things have been happening. Your side has been frustrating government business, haven't you?
I won't exactly use the word frustrating.
Since you realized that you were almost in a hang situation, you have exploited that in many ways. You got speaker on your side. You are basically forestalled government. Okay, now they say it's no longer the panacea anyway. Government, one of government's biggest revenue generating measure. Mindful of the current difficulties we find ourselves, you have frustrated the passage of the E-levy at all levels, consistently still doing so now. This clearly is frustrating government business, isn't it?
I don't know what government business is. I don't know what government business
is to pass the levy, raise enough money so that they can do the things they want to do. Clearly, job generation, entrepreneurship, and also making sure that they get roads fixed.
Yeah, I think that legitimately we will say that government business is to fix roads, to create jobs and grow the economy and etc. But I don't know whether government business is to go and stand on the electronic highway and anybody carrying his money on that highway, government says, give me a portion of it. Because that's what E-levy is really about. If you break it down, basically what it is that anybody who is carrying his money on the electronic highway and going to pay for something, government wants to take a portion of that money. And it is the principle that the minority and Ghanaians generally are against. I mean, Ghanaians pay taxes. Recently, when the pandemic started, governments said they distributed food, they provided free water, free electricity. Subsequently, when they asked Ghanaians to increase the VAT by 1% in order that we'll pay the bills, I think Ghanaians willingly are paying the VAT. So Ghanaians are not against, passing taxes, and we in the minority, did not fight it that hard. We allowed it to pass. But in this instance, I think what we see is an arrangement where government is trying to introduce a policy that says that anytime that I store my money in a wallet and I want to take the money and effect a payment, government will take a portion of that money, 1.75% of that money. It just doesn't make sense. The reason why I say it doesn't make sense is that, we've been encouraging people to move from a cash-based economy to a cashless economy.
That's true.
And over the years, we've been investing so much money
to help that
transition to happen. One of the reasons why we are moving them into a cashless system is that we spend so much money printing hard currency.
It's not environmentally friendly too.
Yeah, it's not environmentally friendly, but apart from just not being environmentally friendly, we spend so much money printing hard currency. And when the economy is cash-based, there are a number of vulnerabilities, armed robbers, thieves, and etc. Then we have to invest so much money into fighting crime. Anytime there's a bus going up north, every morning you wake up, you'll be told that 2 were robbed, traders' money is taken from them, and etc. So you have to spend so much money on security. Now, when people begin to buy into a cashless economy and begin to use mobile wallets to store their money so that when they are going to effect a purchase or something, they take the money out of the wallet and pay. And then you say, okay, now I'm going to go and stand on that highway, and instead of the armed robbers that will stop the bus and then ask you to give the money, the government now says, I'm on the electronic highway and I'm going to seize the money the same way that you are threatened on the highways. It just discourages people from making that transition and moving us back to a cash-based economy, and then we will spend so much on printing currency. And it's just not a sound policy.
But government is bent on pushing it through.
It's a desperate, fiscal policy, but it just doesn't make sense. And you go around the world, those who have tried it haven't been that successful. And
government will make it happen. They say they have the numbers to push it through Parliament.
Well, I mean, they have 138 members.
Yes.
And we have 137 members.
But
any day that they are able
Assin North MP is in doubt in this case, right?
Why is it in doubt? There's no court order restraining him from coming to Parliament and voting. No, there's no court order. There's no injunction. The Court says he should be served personally. Yes, so serving him.
Another High Court says they should they should put it on his wall.
Yes, he should be served to come to court and answer. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that he should stop attending Parliament.
Really?
No.
Is that your interpretation of it?
No, it is not.
I thought there was a court in Cape Coast that's already said that he cannot be holding himself out as a member of Parliament.
There's a court in Cape Coast that declared that he wasn't eligible to contest.
Yes.
And so he shouldn't hold himself out as a member of Parliament. Then he appealed to the Court of Appeal.
Yeah.
And then he filed for stay of execution.
Was that dismissed?
No, he's filed.
The file. Okay, so it's not been heard.
No, it's not been heard.
Okay.
You see, and that effectively serves as a stay. Once he has appealed to the Court of Appeal, and then he's also applied for.
Is that the mere filing of it?
It's not.
The mere filing of it.
Even yesterday, the Supreme Court drew the attention of the Attorney General, but you know that he has appealed, and you know that he's also applied for stay of execution. You know that effectively in law, it serves as a stay of execution. So why are you creating the impression that the High Court has? Yesterday in court, the Supreme Court...
That's what really happened?
Yes, that's what really happened. So what is happening now is that they have gone to the Supreme Court, asking the Supreme Court to make that determination. Mm-hmm. And the issue now is to serve him to come to the Supreme Court to also argue against what they are requesting for. That's all. It doesn't serve
as a member of Parliament.
Yes, he's a member of Parliament. It doesn't serve as...
He sits in Parliament today.
Oh, but didn't you hear them say that they came to Parliament trying to serve him, and then his bodyguard said...
But Apeatse says he will report him to the Speaker so that he can be thrown out.
Which Speaker?
The Speaker of Parliament.
But Apeatse's reportage doesn't change anything. The only person who can tell the Speaker is when there is a court order served on the Electoral Commission decides to declare that the seat is vacant.
Oh, I see.
Yes. For Apeatse saying it in Parliament, it doesn't change anything. I mean, who tells him that the Speaker hasn't heard?
Maybe he'll bring his attention to this point.
Who tells the Speaker doesn't know that the matter is in court?
There is extreme partisanship in Ghana's Parliament, isn't it?
Yeah, Yes, Parliament by nature.
You are just thrown in the middle, just straight down in the middle. No compromises at all.
I don't think so. I
Really?
don't think so. No.
It's very clear in how you dealt with this E-levy matter.
No, 99% of the business that come to Parliament, we all agree. The budget came.
Even now.
The budget came.
Yeah.
We agreed.
You rejected, you accepted, and you dilly-dally with this budget.
The budget.
Yes.
You see, the budget, the issue in the budget
Yeah.
was the E-levy component.
But it still went through this.
Yes, but that was the single issue that really was a problem.
Okay.
Otherwise, 99% of what was contained in the budget, the minority approved. But the singular policy of E-levy, which was contained in the budget, was what caused us to try to reject the budget, because we felt that if you didn't reject the budget, which contains the E-levy,
okay,
what principle will you be standing on to reject the bill that wants to bring the E-levy into being? So that was the real reason. Otherwise, we didn't have any issue with provision for teachers to be paid for 2022. We didn't have any objection to provisions to build hospitals, to construct roads. No, so 99% of the issues that come to Parliament, we tend to agree. But usually the 1%, the 1% that we disagree creates a lot of drama.
I see.
And then that becomes the news. But all the business that occurred in the House today...
You don't think that you are very partisan Parliament today?
I don't think so. I think that
consensus building is not really happening.
No, there's a lot of cooperation and consensus. Ministers came for vetting. People thought we would not approve the ministers, but they were approved.
Your rank and file was not happy with you.
Even our own rank and file, they were not happy with us.
Yeah.
But we looked at this, okay, why would we... President has been elected by the majority of the people, and the Constitution says he should nominate people that he wants to work with. And the Constitution has a minimum qualification threshold that the person must be qualified to be a member of Parliament. Some of them were already members of Parliament. And then the president decides to appoint somebody to be a fisheries minister. People say, oh, she's not qualified to be fisheries minister. By whose standard of qualification? The man who she's supposed to assist, he says he wants her to assist.
I see.
And you know, the funny thing about our Constitution that people don't realize is that really, when you vet somebody because he has been nominated to be a minister for sports, the person can get that the following month, the president will move the person from minister of sports to minister of energy. To a different
ministry, yeah. I get your point.
You get the situation. So the basic thing that you are really vetting for is whether the person qualifies under the Constitution to be a minister of state, to test the person's knowledge of the subject matter and etc. And you need to mobilize, you know, a real majority to be able to prevent the person from occupying the position. But the point we're making is that even that, when people were strongly against us, we went ahead with the majority and allowed them. But on this E-levy, it's a serious policy issue that we think should not pass. And so it is not a manifestation of a team that is just out there to sabotage government or frustrate government in the conduct of government business. Not at all.
There's some fresh information coming in. And I'll ask you this because, I mean, of course, we didn't agree to talk about it. But we understand that there's a new technical team for the GFA. You have been sports minister before. You had lots of controversy as sports minister. It's perhaps one of the most difficult ministries to handle in the Republic of Ghana. But we understand that the Ghana Football Executive Council decision now that for a new technical team has been put in place. Chris Houghton is technical advisor. Many wanted him to be coach, but Otuado is the head coach. Didi Dramani is the assistant coach, and George Boateng is also an assistant coach. This is what the Executive Council of the GFA has decided. We know that early on, there were indications that government wanted Chris Houghton. GFA still wanted Otuado. But do you think this is going to create some confusion?
No. I don't know. I mean, my days as sports minister, I mean, I'm not a sports person, but I was sent to the sports ministry. And within a short time, I worked with the team, the GFA, and they went to the same, you know, AFCON in 2015 and went up to finals, if you recall. And it was through the penalties of even the goalkeepers that we got eliminated. So within that short period, we had an impressive record in terms of delivering on Ghanaians' passion winning a tournament. But we had a similar problem before the tournament because the coach then was a Ghanaian, and people had reservations about his capabilities. And we had a discussion with the GFA, and we came to a conclusion that we will look for another coach that was very good and appoint that person as technical advisor to the Ghanaian coach. And when the FA suggested this to the coach, he rejected it. And that was the reason why the FA actually fired him. And then advertised for a new coach. And then Avram Grant applied, and then they screened and selected Avram Grant. So we had that vision of getting the two best people, putting one as coach and putting the other as a technical advisor, so that they will work together as a team. So I think that this is a good compromise. If government felt that Chris is a very good material, and then the FA also felt that O2 is a very good material, and they can afford the two of them, why not? If they can afford the two of them, and the two of them, their job descriptions are clarified, and then there's effort to build them into a good working team, there shouldn't be a problem. Maybe if they are competent, it should help. But if you get two incompetent people, it doesn't add to competence.
Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting to know.
If they are competent and they can work together, I think that it's very good. Because one thing I found out, because I didn't know a lot about football, one thing I found out is that having a good coach is really, really very important. Having a Ghanaian coach can be inspiring if he's able to win. And, it really promotes ownership. Yes, we trained ourselves, we went and played, and we performed very well. So we take credit. Sometimes when you are playing and I'm not being racist or, but if you are in a tournament and the coach is not a national of yours, whatever you do, at the end of the day, it looks like the credit goes to somebody, or somebody has to share in the glory. But it will be good, like in Senegal, where the coach is Senegalese, and then the players are Senegalese. But if you watch, you see that there were a couple of Europeans, white people in the technical bench of the Senegalese team. And so even there, you import expertise. So if you have it in-house in the country, you use it. If you don't have it,
doesn't matter the nationality of the person.
I think so. It's the skills. You want to win, and you want somebody who has the capacity to help you. If you don't have the expertise, and you go shouting nationalism, you go to a tournament and you will go home at the early stages of the tournament.
There's, however, my final question to you. A former minister, Nilante Vanderpool, was sitting here. He made this point about the people with the GFA sometimes have interest. They have interest in who they want to play the team, which sometimes prevents the team from functioning the way they ought to function. Is it, from experience, is this something that's true?
Well, I don't have much experience, but I heard all those things from people who are very experienced. And so in the process, they make it difficult for the coach to really pick the best that should form the team, because people try to use these tournaments to promote their players that play for their own, teams, and then they can sell them in the international market, and they make so much money out of them. And so these tournaments are important marketing platforms for them. So there are all sort of lobbies that try to push their preferred players to be on the team or in the team. So you need a coach that is firm and strong. And sometimes the coach needs political backing to be firm. That backing can come from the government. It can also come from maybe the president of the FA, somebody that really has control, letting the coach know that, look, coach, you have my backing. Do what you think is right. Don't yield to pressure from anybody, and I will back you. If the coach gets that kind of political assurance from government and also from maybe the president of the FA, it's not just the president that will be trying to influence. Sometimes the president as a person may not even have a team or may not even have any preferred player. There could be other key actors in the FA.
Oh, I see.
There could even not be people in the FA. There could just be businessmen in town who have football teams, interest in football, and want to influence.
I'm hoping we can do this conversation in a fuller form some other time. But thank you so much for joining it. If I do not end the conversation, Abla will kill me on this network. But thank you so much. Today's edition of Upfront came your way. Many thanks you for joining us.